thank you everyone for coming. I know it's close to Diwali. This is not quite a Diwali party, but hopefully...
No, I'm dressed like one.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be a few firecrackers in this conversation. The idea, as some of you know, we have a very diverse portfolio across consumer, enterprise, B2B, fintech, edtech. But what we found was that we had companies at very different stages in their journey. Some had become very large, some were early stages. And we found that since we had this really interesting cross-section of companies, that we would use this as a forum to connect the dots across our portfolio companies. And hopefully, for a few other firms and companies we like, it's an opportunity for us to get to know them better and for them to sort of see what the Trifecta journey has been like with some of our portfolio companies. So thank you everyone for coming. We started this series out about a month and a half ago. It was originally supposed to be called Brunch with Builders, but then Darpan was not available at lunch, so we made it Brew with Builders. So there's a bit of creativity in Team Trifecta back there. But the idea was, try and spend a little bit of time with someone who's been on an interesting journey. And of course, leave it open to some questions at the end. So please feel free to ask Darpan. He'll be kind enough to take any tough questions. So I'm going to start, Darpan, with a little bit of your life arc, because I think it's really important to know where people come from. I think we all know the Darpan of today, founder of Good Glamm, celebrated entrepreneur. But maybe you can just share a little bit of where the journey began. As you were growing up, did you have any role models? Did you ever see yourself in this avatar when you were running around in short pants? So tell us a little bit about the beginning of the journey.
So I'm from Pune. That's where I grew up. And growing up, can you guys hear me? Okay, so growing up, Rahul asked, did you see yourself in this avatar in shorts? I think yes. I think growing up, always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Right? I think that was very, very clear in my mind. Maybe it had to do something with hearing stories about my grandfather or things like that. But I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think that was always very clear. So my first entrepreneurial stint was at the age of 19, where in 1999 the dot-com boom was going on in India. And there was it still is a very famous dot-com. Back then it was the famous dot-com called Hungama.com. Back then in 99 it was the poster boy. So I was all of 19 and living in Pune, and I said I'm going to start a .com, and I called my .com musthangama.com. And I had a tagline that said Hungama sucks if it's not must. It got me in all the papers. The .com went nowhere because I clearly had no clue what I was doing. But it got noticed by Avnish and Suvir, who were running Bazi.com. Back then, and Bazi.com was the heaviest funded .com in 99 when Star had put I think $20 million or something like that in their company. And then I worked for Bazi.com for a year when I was 19, taking a break from engineering. Went back to school, finished my engineering, and then went for my MBA. When I went for my MBA as well, so I did engineering from Pune, and then for my MBA I went outside India. I went to a school called SRA Business School in Barcelona, and they had a dual degree with University of Texas at Austin. Even while I was there, I was very clear, I'm going to go get my MBA, work for a couple of years for a large company, then come back to India and start my own thing. So that plan on being an entrepreneur was always there. I worked with a company after my MBA for 3 years, and then I tried to do a startup in New York for a year, which again didn't go anywhere. And I finally came back to India when I ran out of money, in New York. And then I started to look to do something here. So I moved here at 28, I moved back to India, and between 28 to 30 I was trying to figure out kya karu. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was never great at any one thing, which would have made it easy for me to say ki ye karna hai. So it was not like I was a great painter and I could do something in art, or or a great engineer and I said I could write some great code, but I wanted to do something. So I thought, I was looking for opportunities, and I found an opportunity saying that there aren't enough brands in India. Right. And I said, at that time I didn't have the courage to start my own brand. Right? I had no experience in any of this. So I said, let me start by trying to bring a brand to India. So I just started, like I'm sure like half the entrepreneurs in this room have done, just started cold calling people, shooting darts in the dark and seeing what will stick, right? So I would like email all the top brands of the world and say, I'm the guy you should partner with to bring your brand to India. I had no money, could not guarantee them a single store, cash, all of that stuff, right? But we were just trying and trying and trying. Tried everything from clothes to accessories to, and somebody responded to the email. And one of the guys who responded to the email was someone who was a franchisee for L'Occitane, the French beauty brand. And he was doing something for them in Indonesia. And I got talking to the guy, and then he introduced me to the L'Occitane folks. And then I was, for a year, just hustled and harrowed the L'Occitane managing director to say that, give me the master franchise to do L'Occitane spas in India. And it took a year, and he somehow relented, and he gave me the opportunity. And that was at the age of 30. And so my career really started as an entrepreneur at the age of 30 when I got the master franchise from L'Occitane to do their spas in India. And again, like all of you guys, I probably didn't know how I was going to fund it, do it, all of that. But then we stumbled across a business model that worked. And, the entrepreneurial journey started. So I started my entrepreneurial journey by doing spas and salons under other brands in India. So once I got L'Occitane, an entrepreneur took over. Oh my God, I'm the best. So I wrote to 20 beauty brands and said, look, I am the greatest guy for beauty in India. I run L'Occitane spas in India. You need to give me your brand as well. And we managed to get more brands. We got Clarins, and we did Clarins Spa in India. We got a salon from New York called Warren Tricomi Salon. We did a licensing deal with Elle Magazine, and we did Elle Spa and Salon. And for 5 years, 2010 to 2015, we did that, 25 locations. And then I was reading every day in Economic Times, Tiger is giving money to some kids from Powai on a presentation, looking at a PowerPoint. I'm like, what the hell am I doing running spas and salons, right? Like, I mean, so I started thinking, how do I put an E in front of my business, right?
Or a .ai these
Or a
days.
then I said, oh, maybe I can, so I saw something in New York called Glam Squad, which was you use an app to call a stylist to your house. It's like, oh man, I'm running spas and salons, let me just learn technology and create an app with which people can call stylists to your home. And so the idea came when the funding, it was hot, right? It was like early 2015. We said, oh, we should do this. By the time we actually launched, which was the first avatar of MyGlam, was August 2015 when Tiger had stopped writing checks and the funding winter had started, right? And so MyGlam was born in August 2015, which was an Uber for spa and salon services. Now we were late to the game because Urban Clap was already there and they had done some good rounds of funding. They already had good marquee investors and they had a head start. But we were saying that, look, we are niche, we're focused on beauty, and Urban Clap is doing everything under the sun, and beauty is highly differentiated, specialized, and only a specialist can do it. So that was sort of our pitch right there. But the winter was there, and it was about March 2016, 6 months after starting this business, where we ran out of whatever initial money we had. And I met every VC in the world, half of which who are on my cap table today. But back then, and everyone said no. They said, we love you, but we're not writing checks. It's winter. So I sent an email to, so it was I think 3rd March or something like that. 7th March was salaries, no money in the bank. And I sent an email to the owner of L'Occitane, the guy with whom I had started my first business, right? And I said, hey, I started a new company. Do you want to invest? And the CEO of L'Occitane, the gentleman Andre, who's my mentor now, right? He was like, yeah, sure, everything you told us you would do when you took the spa franchise from us, you did. So what are you doing next? We'd be happy to invest. And I told him about the business, and he said, yeah, India has a lot of traffic, so maybe at home works, right? Because it was at home beauty services back then, right? And he says, how much do you need? And I said, I don't know, maybe $1 million. And he wired $2 million, and we stayed afloat, right? So that's how we survived the funding winter of 2016, right? 6 months after taking his money, I went back to him and I said, by then Urban Clap had done really well. They'd really grown ahead, and we just couldn't compete with them. And then, and we were not able to solve one problem of disintermediation, which is I spend the CAC that all of you, I saw so many DTC guys here, so all the CAC money we spend on Facebook and Google, but then the artist and the customer would exchange numbers and never come back on the platform. So I said, I'm encountering this problem, and so I need to pivot. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I think I have the confidence now to build my own brand. And I told him, you help me get the right products and packaging, and I think I can create a direct-to-consumer beauty brand here. And I've learned enough of tech now over the last 2 years to create a differentiated experience on technology for the same. And he backed me again, and he financed the pivot. And we pivoted in October 2017. The My Glam that you see of today was born, right? So that's sort of been a little bit of the journey from
incredible,
from Mast Hangama to My Glam.
Seems like the lesson is just lage raho.
Right? Oh, that is so true.
Just lage raho, because it feels like all the pivots got you to the beginning of what is
something
now
or the next
something
thing.
really special.
Absolutely.
So, you've obviously seen the Indian consumer now for some time, and I think a lot of us, here are trying to dissect made for India, now made for Bharat. How have you seen the market change, and particularly with beauty and personal care, something that seems to be aspirational but is becoming much more mainstream? So we kind of took a decadal view. Where was the customer, say 5-10 years ago? Where are they today? And where do you see the customer going over the next 5-7 years? Because a lot of people here are trying to build brands that are relevant not just for India, but also for Bharat.
Sure. I think if I just talk about my category, because that's what I understand, right, beauty and personal care, I think over the last 5 years, the customer has really progressed in terms of their knowledge on what is out there. And the reason being, the last 5 years, you've seen the explosion of social media, right? And that's exactly where they're discovering the latest trends, the latest ingredients, the latest products. And it's the same Kim Kardashian that a tier 3 customer is following, that a tier 1 customer is following. At My Glam, at Good Glamm, we do these focus groups all the time, where we get women from different cities sharing their experiences, and you would see the questions that the tier 3 customer is asking is as sharp, in terms of her knowledge on beauty, is as sharp as the tier 1 customer.
Wow.
So and that has allowed new brands to get built, because consumer is now is willing to try new things on the back of a good product claim, on the back of unmet customer need that their product is meeting for them, and which is why you see so many great brands coming out of India. So consumers have gotten much smarter about this category. They are much more aware, and I think that will only become more and more pronounced as we move ahead, for sure. And because our category is driven by social media, the prevalence of social media is just making it explode, and that's driving the growth as well in our category.
Interesting. So, you talked about just the proliferation of brands and the acceptance of brands. So it feels like lots of people can get started in the business. The barrier to entry has come down dramatically. Sure. How do you think about what keeps a customer happy, and how do you think about the unit of a customer? And has that changed over time, because you've added a range of products now? So how do you think about a customer relationship, and more importantly, how do you keep them?
See, eventually what we're all doing is building a brand, right? And building a brand is very hard and takes a long time. The day you've succeeded in building a brand, then your consumer is coming to you beyond your product and transactional benefit, right? And for something much more deeper. And if you're able to create that emotional connect, nothing like it. That takes time. What leads to that brand building is high innovation in product and disruptive marketing, especially in my category. Marketing is very, very important in my category. Retaining that customer is when you have the innovation in product, she's really happy with your product, she knows that this is a brand I can trust. If they're saying they're going to give me ABC benefits, it over exceeded my experience. Disruptive marketing is, all right, they managed to do something that cut through the clutter, but what their brand promise was something that I actually saw in every touch point, even in that CRM message that comes to me, or the way the delivery box came to me, or the way they took care of me afterwards. So I mean, all of these, go into those little buckets that you need to fill up to make the customer truly feel that this is a brand I connect with, this is a brand that gets me, right? But your holy grail eventually is all of that leads to some emotional connection,
right?
A point of view, and creating a point of view is very hard. Even at My Glamm, which has been our oldest brand, right? It's been there for 5 years now in Good Glamm Group, and it's the most scaled up brand. It took us time to figure out what should be the point of view, right? What is it that you can truly own, which your customer will recognize you for, which is beyond a product benefit. And I think the faster we find that out as brand builders, and then just focus all razor sharp focus on making sure that that point of view is reiterated in every touch point, helps build that brand connect. And all of that then eventually leads to retention. When you have great retention, that's when you know you've got great brand loyalty.
So you've obviously done an amazing job with the top of the funnel, right? The whole deal that you put together. We initially were chatting when you were doing the home spa business, and then of course over the years things have changed, but you cracked the top of the funnel.
He was one of the guys who said no as well during the home service.
Yes, shame on me, but anyway, let's not go there. Okay, we're not allowed to talk about the past, only the future. So you've got the top of the funnel working amazing. Your CAC is like 0, right, effectively. But, and people in the room also, for instance, as Hopscotch, part of the question has been, can I effectively cross-sell, right? And you've got multiple brands, multiple categories. Is cross-selling working? Is that something that is, everyone talks about it, but does it actually work?
So it does. I think the cross-selling has to be very smart. So for us, it is working. So if I look at, we were in fact just seeing this data the other day. So today about 40% of our acquired brands, 40% of their DTC orders are coming from My Glamm customers. I mean, My Glamm has about 7 million transacted customers now, right? And that's a large base. Now you want to get those guys to start buying your other products, right? We are seeing 40% of our acquired brands first purchases happening from existing My Glamm users. So I think cross-sell does work. You have to have, first you need to own the customer. Right, if you have the data and she's on your platform and it's DTC and it's not that it's selling on Nike or Amazon, because then you're not connected with the customer, right? Here you're connected with the customer, so then you can cross-sell much faster. Then with the right data you do it. We still have not been, because we are an FDI company. We are, we have not, when you're on a My Glamm website, you can't buy my other product.
Right.
You can only buy My Glamm. So we have individual websites, right? And despite that, we're doing this number, which 40% of first orders of all the acquired brands is coming from My Glamm, erstwhile customers. That's just through strong CRM, right? So I think cross-sell definitely does work, but it needs to make sense.
Interesting. As you've added, multiple brands, you've also brought in sort of co-founders, right? How have you been able to integrate, because your journey to scale has been slightly different, it's been a little bit more inorganic. What has been sort of your guiding light as you look to bring people in? How important is sort of culture fit versus just business fit? And how is that integration going?
So I think, the culture fit happens because when you go and talk to these other founders and tell them, listen, let's become part of Good Glamm, right? If it was not a common vision that folks shared, they wouldn't come in the first place, right? So there is definitely a common vision with which they get attracted and they say that, yes, this makes sense, what you're asking for, right? So I think that sort of is like, the first entry point itself, right? That do we share a common vision? I think culture is much harder and takes time. You just can't rush it and push it, right? You need to give enough time and space for that amalgamation to happen seamlessly. You have to be extremely empathetic. It's very hard as a founder. We're all founders here. We are used to doing everything, right? We're used to getting into everything and making decisions on everything. However, when you come together as a larger group, right, you can't be doing everything. And so ensuring that you are only focused on your vertical, right, while letting others be in their own vertical, I think that's the hardest part.
So
right?
what is Darpan's vertical?
So Darpan's vertical is to make sure all these verticals work smoothly together, right? I think it is to actually make sure that people are working seamlessly well together, removing any barriers that they might have, whether it's interpersonal or business, right? In here, and so if you ask me, the biggest challenge that we have been working on in these integrations is being able to get our founders to be focused on one vertical and not be disturbed by the fact that they are unable to influence disproportionately another vertical, because that some other founder is running, and you don't want, you need to empower everybody in their own verticals, right?
And have you found any operating leverage on the back end meaningfully? We've been seeing a lot of these aggregator models. You came at it from a slightly different
Correct.
starting point, but lots of people are trying to roll up businesses. What has been sort of the most meaningful back-end leverage, or is it top of the funnel leverage? Where do you see the most value?
So
in
even
bringing
top
these
of the
together?
funnel is a back-end leverage, right?
Right.
So the leverages are in the top of the funnel traffic. We already had the traffic. The traffic, we could only talk makeup. How much makeup can you talk, right? But now I can talk about a woman's hygiene problem. I can talk about someone's hair care problem, someone's skin care problem, someone's parenting problem. So you are now able to address a much wider need in that top of the funnel, which is why we see the scale up that has happened in the DTC sales of our acquired brands. To quantify, so MyGlamm, is acquiring about 450,000 new customers a month. The acquired brands today are acquiring 300,000 new customers a month. So as a group, I'm effectively nearly, not double, but it's like 40% of my total new customers are now coming through the acquired brands, wow. Right? Which if I was only MyGlamm, I would not get that. I would be at my 450K number, right? Here. So I think that piece is clearly working. I think the other synergies then come as if you look at supply chain, right? 5 brands had 29 warehouses. Making that 4 warehouses, that brings down costs. Look at TAT. Because MyGlamm was at scale, MyGlamm TATs are incredible, right? 85% of our orders reach within 48 hours. So we have all those TATs, but some of the acquired brands had only 45% of the orders were reaching in 48 hours, right? Because they didn't have that kind of system in the back to ensure that their TATs are, so now all of them are on similar TATs or getting to similar TATs. So there are cost synergies, undoubtedly, even cost of goods, right? When we are now negotiating with suppliers, we're negotiating for 5 brands together. So there is, a saving that's coming through that. So there are cost synergies, there are performance synergies, like the TAT that I talked about right now, right? And then there are revenue synergies, which is where cross-sell happens or the top of the funnel happens.
Interesting.
And and the thing is, we are not an aggregator model, right? We are very, very clear that we just wanted a brand in all the major categories of beauty, personal care. Why did we do that? We did that because we saw very clearly that if you are a single brand, single category, आप इंडिया में 10-15 हजार करोड़ का revenue business नहीं बना सकते. That depth of the market is not there. आप 1000 crore का business बना सकते हो, right? If I want to build a business that's revenue of $1 to $2 billion, I need to be playing in all the major verticals of beauty and personal care. Right? And MyGlamm was playing in just one, which is makeup. I needed something in hair care and skin care. So our acquisition strategy has only been to fill these gaps up, right? Rather than it being a roll-up play saying that, because when the business of building brands, a brand banana aasan nahi hai.
Right. Yeah. I think there was a sort of Thrasio overhang, which still now I think people are realizing is not as obvious. So, when you think about, the journey that you've had, capital raising has also been an integral part of it. And you talked about a lot of people slamming the door in your face. Things have changed since then.
You were very polite, Rahul.
Hey man, we're on every side of the business now. But how have you approached fundraising? Because it's one of those things where, is it an art, is it a science, is it both? What can you share with everyone here? Because you've obviously been very successful with raising capital. But what are some of the key principles that you've used to get investors excited about what you're doing?
So, I think first is, I think we all have to recognize that one thing that I've learned is you cannot beat the current. So you have to go in the direction of the current. So if you see funding is slow, pointless trying to swim against that current and trying to go and try to raise money when there is a winter around, right? Unless you really need it. Similarly, when you see that the momentum is very strong, then you run like you've never run before, right? And you try to get ahead of it. again. So one thing is be very mindful of what that current macro environment, what that current is, and then just be ahead of that, right? I think you have to have a very differentiated proposition, because when that when that momentum comes and you have a differentiated proposition, you can really slam it out of the ballpark, right? And that will also determine for you, what metrics are critical at what point of time. Last year profitability was not critical at all, it was all growth. So if last year I went for profitability, I probably would not have been able to raise as much as I did, right? Because my growth would have been muted.
Right.
This year is all about profitability, and that's the complete focus, right? Not that we're raising money this year, but that's just the macro shift in the environment. And so we have to do profitable growth, right? You don't do mad growth like the 8x growth that we have done last year. You do 3x growth, but be profitable. So I think being successful at fundraising is just be aware of the time around you, and you have to keep building a solid business irrespective of the time around you, right? So make sure that you're doing, and that solid business, the key metrics, your differentiated proposition, keep doing all of that. And when you see the tide, the direction of the current, the direction of the wind, then you just really run over there. Attract great investors if you can, right? It really helps from one round to the next round when people really appreciate the pedigree of investors who are in there. Also, a great investor, a good investor can really help you a lot in just giving the peace of mind as an entrepreneur, right? And a bad investor can just make your life miserable, right? There. So you've got to, you've got to be cognizant of that. It is like a marriage, so you have to have the chemistry with that partner, with the partner who's going to sit on your board. You've got to feel very comfortable with that person, because you're going to have a lot of tough conversations with him or her later. And if you're not comfortable, it becomes hard. So, be mindful of who you're bringing on into the company. Obviously, just keep building a great business, and that what he said, lage raho. Right, keep lage raho to keep building that great business, and when that time comes, then you just slam the hammer and try to run as fast as you can.
So you talked a little bit about differentiation, right? Can you touch on that a little bit more? Because we do have, VCs hunt in packs, right? And then when there's a team, there's like 50 gaming companies, 50 edtech companies, 50 beauty companies. So what do you think has worked for you as you've told the story, and then as you've grown the business? Have you ended up spending more time with investors or less time with investors?
Yeah, look, that the time with investors is critical. You just can't help it, right? You need to, as an entrepreneur, learn to balance that. You just can't, you just cannot. The other day, someone told me that your cap table is like the Mumbai local. That's how long it is, right? But that means that I have to do a lot of investor management, right? In there, you can't help it. Look, that's just part and parcel of the game, right? So you have to do it. So you have to find a way to ensure that you're able to run your business while also managing fundraising or managing investors after you've raised the funds, right? So you can't escape that. What was the first half of the question?
No, I was saying that differentiation in the eyes of the investors.
Yeah,
how do you do that?
And what Rahul mentioned, that they hunt in packs and they go after themes, is very true, right? When there is a certain theme, you'll see a lot of interest towards that theme, and then how do you, and in that theme, then if you are differentiated, that's where you hit gold dust, right? So look, your business model needs to be highly differentiated. We all know that, right? Your business has to be very, very solid. I think if you're able to find a theme which really resonates, which is delivering results and resonates well with something that everyone is seeing as the next big sunrise sort of sector, is great. For us, if I look at it, our big inflection point was content to commerce, right? And that's what, if you see, I told you the story until October 17 when I launched MyGlamm. I launched MyGlamm October 17. The thesis was I met so many guys here who said they get most of their transactions on their website, and I was so impressed, right? Because that's how I launched MyGlamm with. Baki sare brand Amazon and Nykaa pe ban rahe the. We said we'll do it on on our own website because we want to be connected to the customer, right? But the challenge of that was CAC. I was spending mad money. I was burning money, right? For the same. And Bessemer in October 17, that happened, and then about I think April 19, a year and a half after that, is when Bessemer came in and backed us. Our first institutional sort of blue chip VC that came into the company. And at that point of time, I think the way I was able to attract him was he understood the value of DTC. So he did not look at the burn, because what everybody else was seeing was, oh, your burn is so much higher compared to XYZ brand, जो 90% सेल Amazon और Nykaa पे करे, obviously उसका burn कम होगा because वो DTC नहीं है, वो CAC पे खर्चा नहीं कर रहा है, right? And he had a view that DTC owning the customer will be really big. So he said, we'll solve the CAC problem as time comes. I've seen you can build a brand, I've seen your products consumers love, and I love the model that you're building on your website. How to make the CAC work with, and Bessemer came in with that, right? Then I had a tough time raising money, just around December 19, Jan 20. But we finally managed to close a round. That round was happening March 25th, we were supposed to sign docs, and March 21st we went into lockdown, and that round never happened, right? Rahul should know, because Rahul gave me some money in February, right? He gave me a small venture debt at that point of time. Now nothing is small that Rahul does with me, but back then that was the first step that Rahul took in the company. That venture debt actually helped us a lot during COVID. So that was tough. But the existing investors, Bessemer, L'Occitane, and the Mankekar family office, who had come in the Series B, stepped up and said, we'll do a bridge for you. We know your revenues are zero, you can't sell by law, show us how you'll manage burn. And then content to commerce happened, we made the first acquisition, PopXO, and then we just saw all our numbers just change, right? I was acquiring 30,000 new customers a month at $15 CAC. Today I'm acquiring 750,000 new customers at $1 CAC. I mean, so at that time it just, when that switch happened, is when the fundraising started becoming easier, right? Because what happened, what worked for us was people said DTC brands, yes, good theme, people that is going to have a space, brands are going to get built. India doesn't have enough brands. Beauty category, very attractive category, good gross margins, not enough brands. Oh wow, look at this guy, he's got something differentiated, which is he's got content to commerce. And that's where we had a disproportionate attention from investors.
Yeah.
And then 2021 came, and we were able to capitalize on that.
So, you were also one of the early guys to think about omni-channel, and then COVID happened, and that has its own challenges. But when we look at a lot of D2C businesses, they start digitally native, but we're seeing you get to the 70, 80, 100 crore number, then you hit a wall. So what's been the experience with omni-channel, and what have been the challenges of being omni-channel?
So omni-channel has a lot of challenges. It's a very different DNA, right? Like offline DNA is very different from our digital DNA. It's such a operations heavy business. It's unreal, right? I always had a fundamental belief that in India you cannot build a big brand if you're not visible offline. That's why we were omni-channel from day one, right? When we launched Good Glamm in October 17, in 2 months we were at Lifestyle, the department store, right? And we were selling over there, and then we went 6 months later in general trade and we started selling there. So India mein, if you're not present offline, you cannot be a big brand. Consumer needs to see you offline as well. So we had that very clear sort of belief, right? So we knew we had to do omni-channel. Even today, 30% of our sales are offline, right? Challenges are tremendous. I mean, it's a mad manpower business. How do you control operations? You're looking at hundreds of cities, inventory. DTC is so easy, yaar. All your inventory sits in a warehouse. Here your inventory sits in like 10,000 points of sale. If one point of sale, the inventory is not moving, that's dead stock, right? You can't liquidate it because it's already been built over there. It can't be liquidated at another point of sale, right? So it's very, very, it's a lot of work, and it's a very different, the biggest thing, it's a different DNA, right? I think we've learned a lot. So the good news is we've been doing it now for 4 years. So we've made a lot of mistakes in these 4 years, and we've had a lot of learnings because of that. And then the team that we built out, right? Understanding that the team that should run this is are guys who've really come from that grassroots, right? From that DNA. So it's a very, very different DNA, very challenging, but it's something we have to do. You cannot scale without that as a brand, meaning consumers just elevate. It's disproportionate in the share of mind. It is there in the customer's mind when she sees you offline versus in her neighborhood store versus when she sees you on Facebook or Instagram.
So one of the challenges that founders face, kind of the 0 to 1, it's intensity. Everybody's feeling the same way. 1 to 10, maybe it sort of erodes a little bit. But at the scale that you're at, how do you think about, one, the people you're bringing in, how do you kind of propagate that same passion for the customer, but equally, do you have sort of a filter on who fits in the organization? How do you make sure that you're attracting that same kind of DNA that you think makes your team special?
I think that filter is critical, and I'm sure all of you guys have it either consciously or subconsciously, because when you meet the person, the softer aspect, which is not on the resume, right? So for us, it's, we as a company are always doing so many different things that if you don't have that energy level to manage the madness, our CEO Sukleen was right here, right? I mean, she's been, traditional FMCG 20 years, Reckitt, Unilever, L'Oreal, right? But her energy is like a startup energy, right? Like crazy energy. So I think there is a softer aspect, there is a filter, whether you feel that this person cannot, because there are some folks who can get very overwhelmed when 10 things are happening around you, right? So I think so there is a softer filter which is there for sure. But as an entrepreneur, as you evolve, you also have to learn that you cannot expect the same level of intensity from your team that you bring in, because it's not fair, right? You can go, we all, I'm sure, are going like 24/7, 7 days a week. It's like crazy, right? I think one of the things we've tried to do in the company over the last year and a half is make sure that there is a culture in the company. Try to make sure that there is a work-life balance in the company. Rarely will I call my team members on a weekend, right? I consciously try to avoid that, right? While I do know there are a bunch of folks there'll be fire times, right? Once a month there's a launch, all of that, but you can't expect that from them all the time when you are at this scale, right? 3 years ago it was different, right? I expected like 200%, 100% of the time, which you can't do now.
No, that's a fair point, and I think we kind of all start by hiring a Swiss Army knife, and then you get the best screwdriver and the best, saw and the best. So I think we're all sort of going through that journey. Tell me a little bit about, you talked about Vishal, we've had a great friendship. How have, your investors played a role in the journey? And, tips and tricks to managing the board. Everything in this room stays in this room. So please help these people navigate, good and bad board conversation.
It goes back to that first point that I made, that look, the partner at that fund who's going to be with you, right, is the most critical guy, because he's the guy you're going to interact with, right?
Or she,
he or she, right? So you've got to make sure that you feel that chemistry is right when you start off with that person. That's very important. If you're feeling something is off, really think about it, because it would later on make things very, very difficult. I think once you've got that chemistry right, then I think you just have to be honest. I think give bad news, more often and more upfront than good news, because you need to build trust, right? And if they know that they can trust you, you're going to say things as is. You're not going to sugarcoat things. You're going to tell them what the real situation is for everything. They start trusting you, and the minute the trust is built, then every boardroom conversation is very easy, right? So I think it's building trust. I've been blessed because our board truly, all of these guys are just, great people. And I've seen some companies where I've seen some friends, founders who struggled with their boards, right? And touch wood, I've been really, really blessed. But so if you look at my board, we have Andre, who's the CEO of L'Occitane, and he's my mentor today, right? He backed me when, Vishal from Bessemer, right, who introduced Rahul and I together, who was my first institutional investor. And I really treat him like my co-founder, because he understood consumer internet. I was new to consumer internet. He was in those big unicorns, right? He had made those investments in Big Basket, Urban Clap, Swiggy, and they had all turned into unicorns. And so he was guiding me on that journey of going from Series B ahead. And very good clarity of thought. Whenever I need something, send him a WhatsApp, and 10-minute conversation won't take up too much time. I think the worst investors are the ones who take too much of your time, right? The guys who will have a 1 hour long conversation, right, will beat around the bush. I think the guys who are the most direct, because our time is the most valuable thing, right? So he's been amazing. Then, Anand came from Axel. Axel and Anand's reputation is legendary. The way Axel, I remember the Axel round, I was very blessed because there were a few people trying to come in that time. And so Anand said that, listen, just talk to a couple of my founders, right? And he introduced me to some of his big founders, right? And they all just, told me what a great guy he is. And that made the decision easier. Because again, it's about not just the money coming in, but the guy you're going to work with, right? And now at Warburg, right, with Vishal and Anish at Warburg, they are guiding me at a scale because they are traditional private equity, right? And now when we think of large acquisitions, $200, $300 million acquisitions, or large, that's what they've done, right? So the way they guide me over there on how to think. So I think if you have a role for each of your board member, very clearly knowing that he's good at this, and Andre is great at brand. That's what he's done. He's built the L'Occitane brand. So you go to them for that. They can be great value add, right? And if there is trust, have trust. Then all boardroom conversations are straightforward and easy.
Awesome. So I have a ton more questions, but I'm going to leave it to the rest of the gang here. I have a rapid fire round though, which I did not send you. So that is the, there's no hamper tonight, but
no My Glamm
so these are some quick questions. No My Glamm hamper. We should have got one of those. And by the way, these guys are doing the most amazing guerrilla stealth stuff that would seem obvious, but the amount of mileage you're getting from that must be phenomenal, right? So so you can save your guerrilla marketing questions for him. So my 10 questions for you. For question number 1, your last meal, who would you like to have it with?
My kids and my wife.
Okay. Favorite getaway or destination?
Masai Mara.
Interesting. When you grow up, founder or investor, which one do you want to be?
Founder, always.
Excellent. Which one's easier?
I don't want to rub. Okay, this is what I always say. I have a lot of investor friends, a lot of good friends who manage large funds. I say, boss, you guys will come in on Friday evening and say, ye karna hai, ye karna hai, ye karna hai. Then we entrepreneurs are the one doing the work on the weekend, right? To actually make it happen.
I will save my, what happens on the weekend I'll share with you later. But, okay, so if not Good Glamm, what would you be doing?
I'd be an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. So I don't know what else. It's again, I was not great at any one thing. So I would be an entrepreneur 100%. And it is eventually whatever worked.
Interesting. Any secret of work-life balance? You talked about that.
I think it will come naturally. So I am a father of 2 daughters, right? And so then talking work is very easy with them. They're 10 and 12, and so talking beauty and makeup trends and all of that is quite easy with them. I think it's very important, right? I think when you have a family, and it's tough, as entrepreneurs, it's just hard because you're always on it, right? But you have to make the effort for it. It's very important.
Okay. Greatest fear?
Greatest fear? I don't think I have one greatest fear, no. I don't think there's anything that I truly, that I think about that way that's a fear.
Okay. When an autobiography is written or you write your book, what will the title be?
The Naked Entrepreneur.
Ooh, I like that. And you're going to tell us a little bit more about
You'll read about it then in the
book. Excellent. There we go. He's already promoting his book. That's a great entrepreneur. But thank you, Darpan. Thank you everyone for being here. Great conversation.
Awesome. Thanks,
and the bar is open again.